Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Wow, you're very loud. Let me see.
Am I?
Let me see. That might be me. Let's see. Marianne,
Could be me.
talk a little bit, Marianne.
Am I really loud too, or am I okay?
Yeah,
I'm
no.
talking normal. So
All right, yeah.
can you hear me okay?
Stand by.
What? Oh,
You're not in your car.
I'm not in my car. No, I decided to work from home today.
All right.
Yes. Yes, and I'm wondering if next week we could do Wednesday next week and the following week, if we could do Wednesday, if that would be, or another day.
Let me check my calendar. Stand by one. Keep talking though.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I can hear my washing machine running. Can you guys hear that? I can go close that door.
No, I'm good.
Can't hear it.
You're not. It's not picking it up. Good. Okay.
Bob, talk a little bit.
Check. Talk.
All right, good.
Test.
I got decent levels. It was me. Oh, I got to use this to go.
It was distracting me, so I closed it.
All right. Okay. So, Marianne, when's your last day?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Hot damn. All right. So we're talking next Wednesday.
Yeah, if we could do Wednesday and then the following week Wednesday as well. Or a different day. It's just Tuesday. I had an appointment that I had already had kind of lined up.
Oh, no problem. I'm just putting it on my calendar.
So what's the date on those two Wednesdays?
The 1st and the 8th.
1st and the 8th, yeah.
So
will that work?
Yeah, it works for me. Yep. I don't have anything till that night. That's good. Oh, that's not right. What the hell? I want it the 7th. The 8th. Let me make sure I'm cool. Yep, I am. Sorry, I need to do this now or it won't happen.
I get that.
All right, I'm programmed in. Where are we here? We're here. All right. Cool. Tuesday. I like it. Well, today we're doing transformation. So this should work well. What else? There. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm good there too. All right. Bob, say something.
Did you finish the 3-body problem?
Yes.
Were you disappointed that you were left with a cliffhanger?
Yes.
Me too.
Marianne?
Yes.
All right. You're there? Good. All right, we're getting ready. Here we go. Hello. This is Red Hawk. We are coming to you from the deep end.
I'm coming to you from Spokane, Washington. There's lots of deep end here. Mary Ann Runnis, one of my cohorts here, she's coming from Spokane Valley, and Bob Hayes coming all the way transcontinentally from Florida. Today we're gonna go somewhere that some of us have a little bit of a hard time with. It's transformation. You know, when I think about that this week, I thought about my love for the Rumpelstiltskin story, the way this little dude could transform straw into gold. I remember thinking, now that's a pretty cool spinning wheel. And he reminds me, as I was going through my reflection this week, of the early alchemists and their futile attempts to forge lead into gold. And yet, as futile as they were, these transformations are going on all the time. It all starts with hydrogen, doesn't it? And through the three essential processes which we've talked about, it's the root of the universe: complexification, differentiation, and semi-permeability. That simple little atom of hydrogen became the whole elemental table, from hydrogen to U-238. And these danced with each other to be transformed into molecules and eventually into life. And again, through the essential processes, transformed life into how many iterations? I sure don't know, until life became self-aware. And here we are, the product of an untold number of transformations. And if human self-awareness is the growing edge of the universe and the development of the universe, and it looks that way to me at this point, then the process of transformation is still happening. And I say this because so many of us, including myself, seem to not want to change, to be transformed, to become someone new. You know, transformation, personal and spiritual, can be wrenching and difficult. Matter of fact, most of the time I think it probably is. It seems that life and those early alchemists had a lot in common, because sometimes it takes a crucible, a hot meltdown moment to make a change. We do know that the stars and our sun are crucibles of a sort. They're cooking these elements into heavier states, as I've mentioned. Iron is a star killer, and once cooked, the star will collapse. The universe, life, self-consciousness, all in a state of constant transformation. So today, I want to just share this ongoing invitation to be transformed. You know, one of my favorite lines in any song is from Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Don't let the past remind us of what you are not now. Whew. Isn't that the truth? You see, I don't think we need born-again moments to be transformed, although some probably do. I'm not the same person I used to be, and that's pretty clear to me at this point, and I don't think any of us are the same people we used to be. We just have that thread of continuity that keeps us thinking we're the same person. And, yeah, we are the same person, yet we are not. Each of us is on this loop of a butterfly's life, emerging, crawling, binding in a chrysalis crucible, and emerging again, but with wings. We're all going through this cycle, and it's part of the evolution, our own evolution and development, to participate more and more intentionally in our own evolution. And I think that's where we are in the planet's evolution and in the human evolution, is beginning to participate intentionally, consciously. Now, my own life is full of these pivot points, some extremely painful moments born of stupidity, foolishness, and naivete. And those moments changed not just me, but the direction of my life. Waking to the potential in such moments is, to me, an integral part of my spiritual life. And I think of all spiritual lives, that's part of what the waking process is about, the growing, the loving. So how can we grow transformation into our lives? Now, a few things I've thought of were travel. Oh my gosh, travel is definitely a way to be transformed. Overcoming one's fears, starting a new career, breaking up, getting married, moving, death, birth. Man, I can't tell you how death has changed my life, and birth as well. I continually remember that evolution's greatest tool is the mistake, and that's very helpful for me because I've led a life of a foolish human being, and I have to say I feel very fortunate to have done that. Sometimes I think we can make more life out of our mistakes than we ever could out of our success, which is an interesting thing to think about to me. So I guess I want to throw this out to my cohorts here. What has transformed you? How did it work? And what do we do to facilitate our own spiritual, personal transformations? And for God's sake, what is the outcome? What are we transformed into? Something new that we can't yet know because it's something new. So what is it we're transformed into? So we usually only know after the fact, and then when someone says, know thyself, that's a pretty cloudy statement in itself, isn't it? So I guess part of what I want to do today, and this is what my contemplation did, was trying to make transformation our friend. Meeting new versions of ourselves and saying, howdy do, where you been, stuff like that. And when you get all these different selves in a circle and you convene that circle, why, then you have a very, very stimulating and productive self. That's spiritual stimulation inside out. Now, I have to say that if you're on a journey of transformation, it means that you begin to become aware of the changes that are going on in you all the time. And some, as one other pastor looked at me one time and said, Red Hawk, not everybody can take that much novelty in their lives. And maybe that's the case, and I'm just trapped in my own turnings, if you will. But this transformation thing, once I started waking to that this is happening and that the universe is actually working through me and making these transformations through the happenings and through my responses to those happenings, man, I tell you what, there's a new self brewing all the time. So, my friends from locally and transcontinentally, Bob, we'll start with you. When I talk about this and talk about what transforms you, how do we know? How do we facilitate it? Is it too much novelty? What do you have to say?
Well, I think that the whole idea of transformation is going on all the time at different levels of complexity and different levels of relevance to our ongoing journey. Like you were saying earlier, every day is a different day and we're a different person. And those transformations may be very small, and then a huge event may happen and it transforms us completely. A birth, a death, you just laid them out. But I think that the whole idea of semi-permeability, when you combine that with our self-awareness, we can begin to take control of that semi-permeability. How do we let the world in to assist us in those transformations and move us in directions that we try and improve ourselves with? And that becomes the whole journey of increasing one's self-awareness. But it just starts with being aware that there are transformations, that we can't stop the world. We can't stop change. And once we accept that, then we can begin to try and direct it a little bit.
Yeah. Marianne, what say you?
Yeah, I think trying to manage the change as it comes into our life is critical because everything's changing all the time, right? And so I think that in order for us to transform, sometimes it can be painful, and sometimes it can be, every time we change the way we see the world, right? Every time something new comes into our orbit. But I think we have to be able to let our guard down. I had an experience that happened this past week that just keeps kind of going over as you guys were talking about it. I kept thinking about this. And I'm in a group of nonprofit professionals. I'm in the nonprofit world. And there was some discussion going on about the way people do their work. And some people felt like they were being attacked. And their response was, I'm just going to go off, start my own group with this small subsection of our world. And my first thought was, you're going to go create yourself an echo chamber. And I think what we need to do is stay engaged in the larger conversations that are happening, because we're not ever going to change if all the feedback we get is what everyone else agrees with, everybody that agrees with us. And so by being able to open ourselves up and maybe feel a little sting of criticism, and honestly, it was very respectful conversation going on. I didn't see any, it wasn't awful people being awful to each other. It was a true discussion about very different ways of seeing the world. And I think that if we can allow ourselves that bit of discomfort, that something might be hitting us, then we can start to change the way we see the world. We can start to let things in, or we can become stronger in the way we are seeing the world. We can stand up to criticism and be able to stand strong in what we truly believe in. But if we're not listening to each other, if we're not having those conversations, then transformation can't happen. Personal transformation is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
and
that's kind of where I went with this.
And I think, you nailed one of the essential things, both of you, that none of the change would have happened if it wasn't for the semi-permeability, if it wasn't for the listening. How does a hydrogen atom listen to become helium? What has to happen in that small yet radical and profound event? And I think that that's part of what you all have touched on. And one of the things that you just kind of, another vista you've opened my eyes to, was the cultural social change that the internet and cell phones have brought on, and the way we do business. We don't go to stores like we used to go to stores to go shopping. The accessibility of goods, the way the supply chain works. That there has to be, and I can't remember which one of you said it, but to accept, accommodate, and assimilate the changes that are happening around us is the portal of transformation. That's where we let it in. That's how we somehow, we have to deal with what is, and we have to try to be honest with what is. My wife and I were in a conversation about how people get bummed about Amazon and this and that, and yet then they go and they order from Amazon and stuff. And it's a new way of being in business. I remember my dad, when the refrigerators came out, saying, it put the whole ice business out of business. There were these huge ice houses, and they'd huge big blocks of ice to put in your ice box, and they would twice a week come through, over and over. Someone asked Henry Ford one time what the people really wanted, and he said faster horses. The transformations that are integral to our everyday life, if we can start paying more attention to those on both the appreciation front and the critical front, because I think that both of those are important. Bob.
I think that the whole metaphor of the crucible is a very, very strong one when we're discussing the idea of transformation. And as Marianne, you were saying that sometimes it's painful. Well, that pain is part of the crucible. And often the pain is exacerbated by our resistance to transformation. And the harder we fight, the more painful it becomes. And then that ties in and again to this whole idea of semi-permeability, and are we going to let in new ideas and different ideas and so forth. So we have to realize that, change can be painful, but often we're the ones that are making it more painful for ourselves than it really has to be. And that realization is a very freeing kind of idea. And hopefully we can all begin to more readily accept transformation and not force undue pain upon ourselves.
Well, and I think, Red Hawk, you talked about this at the very beginning, is how can we direct the transformation into the way we want to see things happen? So how can we, experience, lessen that pain, but also recognize we have a hand in this too, in the way the world is changing, the way things are happening. And being actively an active participant in helping to direct that too, I think is important.
And you both point to what I'd like to have our discussion tie up here is, what are we being transformed into? What's the outcome? And Marianne, you put something in there that's an important piece, and that's vision. Because if we're going to have an intentional involvement in this, we better have some sense of what it is we're going towards. And I think that the theme that comes up often in these podcasts is wholeness and health, and what constitutes that, and how we're getting closer and closer to having an understanding of what that means. Not just my own health, but how my own health is integral to the biosphere, to the ecosphere, to the whole way that the context in which things are a part of. And I think, in my mind, that's what the universe is doing through human beings. It's not only created a sense of justice, and there was no justice up till 10,000 years ago before the universe got hold of it. And it's this amazing piece that is trying to invite us in to be intentionally involved. And I think that's what you were saying, Marianne. We have to be intentionally involved. And if we're going to be intentionally involved, we better have some sense, some vision of what it is we want to be intentionally involved in, to what end, if you will. And I think that's part of the big mystery that none of us can really see. And I think, Bob, you and I's penchant for sci-fi probably came out of that curiosity of, hey, what can become of all this? And I think our culture is embracing all this sci-fi stuff because it's trying to entertain these ideas in some kind of narrative. And I will tell you this, the most efficient human data storage system is the story. You want to get people to remember stuff, tell them a story that it's a part of. I think that these crime shows where they're talking about the science of the human body and they're doing autopsies, I've learned more about stuff, and I go online and go, yeah, that's the truth. They aren't messing with us there. So I think this whole concept of health and wholeness and what we're growing towards, let's this be our final each comment. Being transformed to what? Marianne?
Well, I love that you brought up the idea of stories, and I want to start hearing stories not of the dystopian type, but some that can envision, the complete immensity of what it means to be a human being. And with all of the nuances, with all of and where can we go from here? And not just personally, but also in our societies and in our culture. And there's a there's a division happening in the stories that we're listening to and the stories that we're telling. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what we transform into. But yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Bob, final comments?
We've talked about guideposts and maps and all of these different and different types of metaphors. Teilhard de Chardin had a very powerful metaphor when he identified the Christ as the omega point. The idea that this is someone we could emulate and try to move towards. And you look at other great teachers in history, the Buddha said, well, we got to get rid of desire. And Lao Tzu said, well, we've got to learn to flow with the universe. All of these different things, when you put them together and use them as guideposts, help us determine where and into what we're transforming ourselves.
Amen. Wow. Well, this transformation thing, listeners, amen, brothers and sisters. We're on a hell of a trip here. And the thing is, I want to become someone new. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that's a hidden intent in most of us. So how do we get there? I don't know. I think we talked about some of the ways to open ourselves, and I hope that was helpful. But here's the thing. There's a couple places we can go. And I think I want to go next to suffering. Because the whole thing hinges, when I talk about justice, when I talk about health and wholeness, when I talk about these different concepts and realities, it all comes down to, compassion is really, I want to remove the suffering from the other person. That's really basically what it amounts to. Suffering. My own suffering, your suffering. One of the Buddhist Rinpoches that I've read said, when you break your arm, that's not just your pain. That pain belongs to the whole human family. When a woman is pregnant and giving birth, that's not just her birth. That's the human family's birth. It belongs to us all. Suffering, it's a hard thing. Some think suffering is a spiritually exploitable concept. That's what Mother Teresa was all about. What is this suffering? How do we bear it? And most of all, how can we respond to it? Well, until then, may you be transformed, and may the blessings of the universe flow down like a river all over you. Peace.